and Kurt Bardella, advisor to the DNC and DCCC. Welcome, guys. Good to see you both. Kurt, you first here because you are part of the DCCC, meaning you are directly involved with getting voters out to the polls in November. So what do you make of this? And how much of a concern is the economy as a whole for the Democrats?
You know, Alex, I don't think it's any surprise that overall, obviously, inflation is a huge concern, a top priority for Democrats, and really it should be for all lawmakers of both parties. Anytime that the American people are struggling and dealing with rising prices and higher gas prices and just day-to-day life is more challenging, like that's a concern. But I'll tell you something about this data. I'm of the mindset that we could very well be seeing this is the tipping point here, that this is the worst that it is going to be. Because interestingly enough, consumer spending also went up. So even though inflation was actually a little bit less than last month, spending is going up, consumers are still spending. And I think that really there's a possibility here where inflation starts actually easing a little bit quicker over the course of the year than people may have first expected. And if that happens at the right time, that could be a real boon for Democrats heading into the fall.
Well, it would have to be really in the second quarter, so that could get baked into people's psyche as they approach the November midterm, so we'll see. But, Michael, congressional Democrats are also pledging to punish oil and gas companies that they say are unfairly raising prices at the pump, in part hoping that that's going to dampen the Republican narrative on inflation. How effective is that?
I mean, I don't think voters would mind, Alex. I mean, voters typically don't mind political leaders going after what they perceive are rich corporations price gouging, essentially, which we know from some leaked documents and memos from some of the oil companies that that's exactly what they're doing. So I think Democrats would be smart to target them, and I don't think they would get any pushback from voters, including swing voters, the voters that they'll need. But I want to touch a little bit on inflation. I mean, most major economic forecasts indicate there's at least a 1 in 3 odds of there being a recession within 12 to 18 months. And we know that the Fed is likely going to have to increase hikes. That hike rate typically, at least if you look at history, will lead to a recession. That's certainly not what President Biden wants. That's certainly not what Democrats want. And so in many ways, I think President Biden's going to have to some kind of way work with the Fed chair to figure out what type of monetary policies the chair can put in place that will slow down inflation, that certainly won't lead to a recession, at least not quickly, before Democrats get to midterms. Because God forbid if something economically crazy happens within the next 3 months, I just don't see how Democrats, Alex, can make a strong case to the American people for why they should remain in power.
Yeah, definitely running out of time. So let's hope the second quarter has a more positive spin for all of us, really, frankly. Democrats are also, Kurt, looking at the last-ditch effort to cobble together a now smaller version of Biden's sweeping economic package. That includes clean energy initiatives on prescription drug reform, also higher taxes on the rich and corporations, as Michael was addressing. People, like that overall. But, of course, it all comes down to one guy, Senator Joe Manchin, and whether or not he gets on board. The Washington Post reports one White House advisor says, quote, there's real fear inside the building that Manchin's stonewalling will run out the clock on Biden's legislative agenda. The Post says lawmakers see July 4th or so as a deadline for action. Do you think it's possible, Kurt, for Democrats to get a Manchin-approved deal before then?
Well, I think it is. I think sometimes, Alex, Democrats make things harder than they need to be. I think really what needs to happen here is congressional leadership and the White House should just go to Joe Manchin and say, you tell us what you will vote for, and that's the bill that we're going to pass right now today. And Democrats really, I think, while they have this majority, while they're trying to make the case to the American people that they deserve a second term here of majority control, they need to start passing stuff and getting things done. It doesn't have to be these massive, large, historic-sized bills. Just pass things to show the American people that as things are struggling, as inflation is happening, they're on the job. They're trying to do well. We saw back in the 80s that when the economy is bad, when there is trouble, a president can get reelected handily if the American people believe that he is working on their behalf, that he feels their pain. They're willing to look past short-term struggle if they believe in the long term that there's going to be a solution, things will get better. And that's what I think President Biden and Democrats in Washington need to really focus on.
Okay. What about you, Shermichael, relative to Republicans who appear to be feeling really confident heading into the midterms, but they have some ugly issues of their own to deal with? There is the controversy surrounding Congressman Madison Cawthorn. There's also those newly revealed texts between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Mark Meadows ahead of January 6th, where she suggests martial law imposing that. I mean, how much can Democrats use that to their benefit?
You know, Alex, that's a really, really good question, and I've thought about this a lot. I mean, I guess they can. I would say they probably should, but I just don't know if you were to list or rank things that voters are primarily concerned about, if Marjorie Taylor Greene would be in the top 5. If they even know who Madison Cawthorn is, would he be in the top 5? I'm not sure. I think what Kurt said is actually accurate. As a matter of strategy, if I was advising Democrats, I would say student loan debt. Biden, forget $50,000. Republicans aren't going to like it. Oh, the heck, well, you got to get your voters out there. They need to figure out some kind of way to get police reform. You got to make sure that you have increased enthusiasm with black voters. It's down 20% for Biden, approval-wise. That's not good. And so from my perspective, if I'm looking at this strategically and I'm thinking about winning, I'm looking at every single piece of legislative policy, any executive order that can be signed or easily passed to gin up enthusiasm. Because, Alex, if Democrats don't, there is no way they win in the House, and they're likely going to lose the Senate as well.
Yeah, focus on kitchen table issues, things that are really affecting people's lives. Your thoughts, last word to you, Kurt, on this.
Again, I think ultimately, winning begots winning. One small victory here creates the next path for an easier victory, and you can string together a number of them and get some actual momentum. It's no different than sports, really, Alex. A team starts out the season, they're struggling, but you know what? They just need that one little victory to turn it around, and once that happens, they peak at the right time. If I were Republicans, the only thing I would be really concerned about is, are they peaking too early in this cycle? Is this as good as it's going to get for them? Because it's still a long way to November.
Yeah, 6 months, that's for sure. All right, guys, good to see you both. Thank you so much. Happy Saturday to you.